Hello, everyone. I'm Lissy, and I'm here with Lyra, and this is our Heated Rivalry Unofficial podcast. Welcome to the cottage. Today, we are going to talk about episode 3, Hunter. And I want to start by sort of like this is a different episode from the rest. We're not following Shane and Ilya in this episode. So I really want to start by talking about, I think, sort of the elephant in the room of this episode is, did we need this episode? Did you enjoy it? What did you think about sort of being pulled out of the narrative we've been following and straight into another story, Lyra?
I do think that when I first watched this, I was in this bubble. I was like invested. You had episode 1, you had episode 2, and the way that it ended, and you're like, okay, I'm gonna watch episode 3. And then when episode 3 happened, I was like, who is this? Who is this girl? I don't need to see this. Move on. But I do remember even after the first watch, it felt like it was essential. Like, I didn't know exactly how it was gonna fit into everything, but I was like, this is gonna be essential. This is gonna matter. I'm gonna trust the journey because they've taken care of me so far. And I'm glad that I stuck it out because this part of the story changes everything in the future. It changes everything for Shane and Ilya. And now reflecting on it, because both of us rewatched it before doing this episode, it goes to show you that you can have more than one queer couple on screen, because that's something that a lot of TV shows don't like doing or think they don't
Yeah.
have to. Oh no, one queer couple, we can't do
Yeah.
another. Yes, you can. And I think it takes some of the pressure off Shane and Ilya to be absolutely everything for the queer community, because I think of it like when you have a Latina character on a show, or a Black character on a show, or like an Asian character on a show. They have to represent the entire community in this show, in this movie. And having Scott and Kip makes it so the load is easier on Shane and Ilya. But also it's an essential part of the story, and we get to see different facets of the queer community. I don't know. I liked it. I feel like I liked it even better on the whatever wash I'm on now. Uh
Yeah.
what about
I
you?
I will say I know we said this before, but like if you're watching this episode and you hadn't watched our previous episodes, just know that I have read all the books and Lyra has not. So like yeah, I remember when they announced sort of the episodes, they didn't announce the name of episode 3. So I think everyone sort of like everyone who's read the books sort of thought, oh, this is what's going to happen. We're probably going to get Scott there because Scott is essential to Jane and Ilya's story later. So I think I was, unlike Lyra, I was kind of prepared for episode 3 to be Scott. I think there's the thing about the story. I feel like Scott's story is essential to understand. Like, I don't think episode 5 hits us hard without this, but I also don't think you can start with Scott. I'm gonna be honest, because like I read the thing about Game Changers. I read Heated Rivalry first. That was my entry. When I read Heated Rivalry, there were no other books. I read Heated Rivalry, and there were only 2 books published. But I read Heated Rivalry first, and went back and read Scott's story because of what we saw in Heated Rivalry. So I enjoyed Game Changer. I did, but I remember thinking this was a more straight up story than what we get with Heated Rivalry. And then the thing is, yeah, you can see my dog in the background. I don't know what she's doing, but
She's
she's a
digging for
guest.
treasure.
Yeah, she's digging for treasure. She's I don't know if she likes Scott and Kip or not. Like we will ask her later. But yeah, what I was saying is this. I think you can start with Scott's story. I think in a narrative sense, Scott's story is not something that can sustain a show. It can sustain an
Yeah.
episode, yeah, but it can't sustain a show because there's not enough conflict. The conflict is Scott doesn't want to come out. Scott is scared of coming out. We understand that within the context of hockey, he is right. Like
Yeah.
coming out is hard. Like all of those things are true, but like considering that that is their only, like you can't do Scott and Kip sustaining a show unless you add problems to their story.
Yeah.
which they don't have in the books. So I mean, I see people being like, "Oh, we want more." Like, yeah, more implies more problems in
Yeah.
general or for them individually. Sometimes I don't want more problems. Like I like that their big problem was this, and then when they solved it, quote unquote, that is it. Like, yeah, they can come in as secondary characters in the future, but I don't
Mm-hmm.
necessarily want problems for Scott and Kip that will require us to
Huh.
narratively follow them as much. I like the characters.
Oh.
I enjoyed this episode. I actually feel like I enjoyed it more on rewatch because
Yeah.
I have not I had rewatched all the episodes multiple times. I don't remember if I rewatched this one as much as the other one because this feels like a very contained story. We don't
Yeah.
have the ending, but this is a very contained story. So I don't think I'd rewatched this one. I did a full rewatch at one point, but I don't
Yeah.
think I'd specifically rewatched 3 by itself as many times as I rewatched the other episodes.
I have a question about the books.
Yeah.
In the Scott and Kit book, do we get their kiss at the end of the book? Like the show has the kiss like on the ice rink and everything like that later on, and it changes everything for Shane and Ilya.
No,
Does
we
that
do,
kiss happen in
we
the
have
book?
linear stories for Scott and Kip and linear stories for Shane and Ilya. And like in book 2 is that you see where the linear stories intersect. But yeah, we have the full story for Scott and Kip in their book. And we even
Oh.
have the speech that Scott gives at the MLH Awards. That
Yeah.
is, I think, I haven't reread the first book in a bit, but like I think it's pretty much parts of it are in word for word the speech Scott gives in the book. It's taken from
Okay.
the speech in the book. So yeah, we have the full story in book 1, and I think obviously the experience for me would have also been different had I read book 1 first. But since I read Shane and Ilya's book first, I went back to Game Changers already sort of knowing where that was going. Like I knew the ending or like the big
Yeah.
moment. Um, I don't think you can do book 1 without that big moment. Like in the show, it works because the story we're following is Shane and Ilya's. But like you cannot do the book without that big moment because then where do you end? The book is not
Ooh.
satisfying without that, but the episode had to mix it, like the show had to mix it with Shane and Ilya's story.
Yeah. Do you think that's the reason then why they started with Shane and Ilya instead of Scott and Kip? Like when they were doing the whole heated rivalry of it all, they were gonna make Rachel's world into a series. Is that the reason why they started? They were like, let's start in the second one because narrative wise, we can put that Scott and Kip piece there.
No, we're starting the second one because that is the only book that has enough conflict to sustain a show. I think Heated
Oh.
Rivalry is the only I think you can only make this show with Heated Rivalry, with Shane and Ilya, because like Shane and Ilya have the only story that is not actually solved at the end of their book. I mean, they're together, and but like they are not out. The world still doesn't know about. There are
Yeah.
problems still, and they have the long game, and they still have problems, like personal problems come into it. And again, she is thinking, uh, "What are we? What's going on here?" Yeah, we will. It's funny. Yeah.
It- oh
Back
my god.
back to the thing. I don't think book 5 maybe Troy and Harris, but that book is too closely related to book 6. Like I think when we get season 2, we are gonna need to do some of book 5 because it's happening in Ottawa in Ilya's team at the same time as the long game. So I don't think you can tell the story of Shane and Ilya going from here without telling Troy's story. But
Yeah.
I don't think you needed to start with Scott. And I think as a show, in a narrative sense, it would have been a bad idea to start with Scott. Because I don't think, again, as I said, I'm not saying they don't have conflict, but they have one conflict. Okay. Shane and
Yeah.
Ilya have several. They have to, it's the internal conflict of their relationship, like the
Mhm.
push and pull that they have for all this time. There's a rivalry. And even when they resolve the push and pull that they have, the rivalry still exists. They still have to come out. Like there's still so many
There's
layers to the
layers.
thing. Yeah. uh Scott and Kip don't really have layers. Like they are flirting badly, then there's U-Haul lesbians, then they are break up because Scott isn't ready, that they get back together. Like it's a very straightforward storyline. Which I
Yeah.
that doesn't mean you can't enjoy it. I enjoyed it, and especially enjoyed it more again on rewatch. Because I think
Yeah.
on rewatch I caught the nuances, and we can go like it sort of break down the episode. But I think that's why you couldn't start with them. And like again, I think you bring them back for season 2, but I don't think you can give them an episode again, or you give they're there in the background because they're sort of established in the universe. And I think they probably, like, whatever happens in book 3, which we haven't read yet, will probably involve Scott to a degree. But like I don't
Yeah.
think they get an entire episode or anything like that as much, because that would require them having problems.
Yeah. Talking like maybe like diving into the episode now, I did want to ask about the time because a lot of times when we're watching TV, we don't recognize how much time. And I'm so grateful to Heated Rivalry for having
For
all
like,
those different timestamps where they're like 2 weeks later, 3 weeks later. But for this one, they're showing that the relationship between Scott and Kip was just 4 months. That whole U-Haul lesbian basically moving in together, everything happened in the span of 4 months. And then years passed,
yeah, look,
and then they got together?
I talked to Lara about this off camera when we were like preparing for this
Yeah.
episode. And like I I think there was probably a change in production, and this is probably a mistake. I don't think they meant for it to be like everything happens before the Olympics. And then 3 years pass, but that's how it ended up being. In the book, we don't get a 3-year time jump from when they have their relationship and Scott coming out. In the show, it kind of feels a little ridiculous to have the 3-year time jump, because then you're like, what were you doing there, kid? Why were you waiting for this man? Like, was it that good? Like
Yeah.
what kind of relationship they have in those 3 years? We don't know. And that is actually something that, considering this change was made, can be explored in a second season, even if it's just them talking about it, because we will be
Yeah.
in the future already, like they'll be together, and we can explore what happened in those 3 years. In the book, those 3 years don't exist. They have a very short, you hold lesbian, like Clara said, relationship. And that kind of makes sense sort of for like the meet cute we got. Like I think what this does is, like, remember where the episode starts. The episode starts with Scott and Vaughn at Sochi, and they run into Shane, and we see that scene where Shane was like in the cafeteria, like at the ice cream place, whatever. We see it again from Scott's point of view. The first time we saw that scene, it was from Shane's point of view, and we were seeing how Shane felt and how Shane reacted, and what Shane was doing before trying to message Ilya, and like how she. Now we're seeing it from Scott's point of view, and sort of it gives the scene another layer, because when Vaughn is saying about the figure skater, like how he's so brave for being here and like being gay, he does not know that he's saying it to two gay people. Like he has no idea.
Yeah.
At some point, I guess, in 10 years, Karaman is going to sit down and be like, funny, this conversation I had. But like at that point, he doesn't know. So we're seeing it from Scott's point of view. And I actually think it hits harder from
Hmm.
Scott's point of view, because Scott's main issue is with coming out. Um,
Yeah.
I think, obviously, we all deal with internalized homophobia, and being queer does not take away that internalized homophobia.
Yep.
You still have it because you grew up in a society that sort of normalizes it. And there's a lot of like expectations of gender roles and all of that are playing to it. But I think this is Scott's main thing in this episode, and in his story, is dealing with this hockey's my world kind of thing. And I don't want to
Yeah.
rock the boat, because what if I lose this thing that has been my identity for so long?
I I will say though that like when I was watching this episode again, I got the same feeling that I got the first time that I watched it. I didn't clock that it was like Scott saying like or feeling like he couldn't come out because of the homophobia in the league. I was a very innocent young girl. I was like, oh, at that speech at the end, Scott just doesn't want to go because this is his family and he doesn't, want to lose it. But then my brain clicked and was like, but why would he lose it? He's just gay. Is there something happening in the league? There
Yeah,
is.
there are no gay players. That's what's happening in the league. So I mean, I think the this is so important. I think we gotta look at it from how important Scott's decision is for Scott, but how important it is for the future and for Shane and Ilya's storyline. Because obviously, the fear of coming out in a league that is predominantly white and straight is big. You don't know how the league is gonna react. You don't know if this is gonna cost you everything. There are not even many, any really, gay players in the major leagues of any sport, really. Um, and we are not naive enough to believe that there are not gay people in those leagues. So they're just not out. And so, like, in the world, in the real world, if that was God did happen, it would be a big deal. And for someone who has lived in the world of hockey as long as Scott has, he understands how big a deal it is, and he understands what he's risking, which is why he doesn't want to risk it. Because I think Scott Hunter, like we learned that his parents died when he was young, when he was 12, and like Scott his entire life became hockey. Hockey kind of saved him. Hockey gave him a home.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then when that's so intertwined with who you are, it feels like if you lose it, you don't have a home. Then
Yeah, who are you without this home? Like, especially if you've identified for
yeah,
such a long time, everything like your job, your personality, your activities off the ice, it's all tied to that. It's scary. I feel like people are like, "Oh, it's so simple." Uh, it's not. It
it's
really,
not.
really isn't.
It really is not. And so I don't want to have this episode feel like we're saying Scott should just get over it. And what he does is really brave. He changes like whatever. He changes the game, which is kind of like the point.
The game
Um,
changer, but
and like he changes the game to a point that I think later for Shane and Ilya, the big issue is not coming out. It is who they're dating. Um, there's
which is
there
whoa.
yeah, it's kind of lost within. I don't remember when it happens, but like I do remember that by the time Troy Barrett comes out in book 5, there are more gay players that Rachel doesn't follow. Like there are just a couple of people
Oh.
who came out, Baldwin and like I don't remember the name, like but they are just mentioned. Okay,
Oh
other
wow. I didn't
people
know
came
that.
out. Okay, yeah. So yeah, because there's a point where like I don't know, Ilya or someone's counting them. Like there's more. Okay, she doesn't follow every gay player. Yeah. So like the thing is, it is some what Scott does. It is something big. Um,
Yeah. Do we
and we're
want to
talking about
then
no,
no.
sorry, we're talking about what Scott does, and he doesn't do it this episode. But like, yeah,
This is the
this
beginning.
is
I wanted
yeah.
to ask about the first meeting.
Yeah, like yeah. I. Let's talk about the meet cute because what they get is literally a meet cute, very,
100%.
very different from Shane and Ilya, even from the beginning, which was a little antagonistic. This is a meet cute, and
Okay.
like I think, uh, heteronormativity is like pulling some serious weight here because like Scott is flirting from the beginning. Kip is
Oh yeah,
flirting from the
terrible
beginning.
flirting, but yeah.
Bad, but like they're obviously flirting. And there are some moments in this episode where I was like, Scott, you're being very obvious, and you are lucky that people default to thinking that everything two men do is straight. Cause like, I mean, I have in my notes like, Scott, what are you doing, Scott? You're being so obvious, Scott. Oh, but yeah, I thought he was like first meeting, very obvious. Like
Oh
he was flirting,
yeah. It was the
and
flirting, the blue moon over Brooklyn with extra banana.
ugh.
Lizzie hates bananas. I
No,
love.
no, no. I
Oh my god!
don't.
Wait, Lizzie.
What?
I have a banana. I didn't even
Wow,
mean it.
Lara.
I
Wow.
bought some bananas because potassium. But I feel like even with that whole smoothie conversation, uh, like you were saying, the heteronormativity of it all, but he showed interest in something that Kip talked about, and then went a step further and was like, "Let me try it. Let me try something that you like." And I feel like that little spark led to a quick obsession, that led to their lesbian U-Haul life, but also, what rom-com isn't like that? Like, really, it
Right,
goes
right.
from one to 1 to 100 in the span of, like, an hour and a half, so
Yeah,
let's be
well,
for
we're
real.
we're not judging actually. Like this is
Yeah,
very rom-commy. Um
very.
and it works, I think. But I mean, I think from like Maria was clocking it. She was sitting there in the back going like,
Girl.
"Girl," because it was very obvious. Um, I think I this time on my last rewatch, I even clocked Kip sort of giving him a once over when Scott was like, Kip's like, that's a fine man. Like they're looking at each other like, okay, there's interest.
They're
Um,
sussing each other out.
they're sussing each other out. Like queer people have done from the beginning of time. Like,
Oh my god, I will
I think,
say.
yeah, there was two things because, like, I think as queer people we do two things. First of
Yeah.
all, is you hot, and second of all is that does that matter because are you one of mine? Like there's two levels to the layers of. I don't know that Kip in the first meeting was 100% sure about the second one. He knew that Scott was hot, but like he wasn't sure
Mhm.
that Scott was also flirting with him. He thought maybe it could have been just nice until the second meeting.
The
Then he,
lumberjack comment.
yeah,
The
yeah.
lumberjack comment.
I think there was a moment where it sort of clicked. No, that's when it clicked for Scott. I'm saying for Kip. I don't think Kip
Oh, when did
knew
it click?
I think also in the second time he comes. I don't think in the first one he could have been sure. Like, and then
Yeah.
in the books, there's also I think the lumberjack comment was it for Scott. In the books, he's notorious for having a really bad gaydar. He's not clocking the gays left and right in the series. Scott isn't. Ilya is. So
Oh.
if Scott has a really bad gaydar, that probably hasn't worked so well. And we also know he's not like having sex every weekend, taking a different guy to his home. Like he said, I don't do this.
Say.
So I don't think Kit clocked it right away, but Scott probably didn't either. They were just being nice. And okay, let's
What
take a
made Kip clock it
moment.
then?
Before we go into that, let's take a moment to talk about the travesty that is putting bananas on your blueberry smoothie. Okay,
Hey,
look,
hey,
I'm
hey.
gonna be very serious here. If you put banana on any smoothie, the smoothie just tastes like banana.
No, it does
So
not.
yes, it
What kind
does.
of
Lyra is wrong. Okay, banana is a very overpowering flavor.
Lizzie,
So
te
if you
voy a
put it
amenazar right here by opening
if
this
you
banana and eating it.
I like bananas, okay? I eat bananas, but I don't put bananas in my smoothies or in anything because then everything will taste like bananas. And I don't want every smoothie I ever have to taste like bananas. So Kip offered a blueberry smoothie that actually tasted like bananas because once you put banana in the blueberry smoothie, that's what it tastes like. Okay? That's it.
Blue
I'm done.
Moon over Brooklyn. By the way, where's this supposed to be set?
In New York. Like it's got
Okay.
the Admirals, they're a New York team, like Blue Moon
Okay,
over
cuz
Brooklyn. Like he's only having the smoothies when he's at home. He's in New York.
just wanted to make sure cuz I mean, they could be anywhere. I thought maybe the Blue Moon over Brooklyn. I was like, it could be New York. That could be the clue, but it could just be anywhere. Any like coffee bar could have a drink from somewhere else.
No, they
Um,
make it obvious because they talk about home games and he's doing well in the home games and the Admirals are the team from New York. Um,
ah,
yeah. I also
but
think
the Kip,
what
you said okay,
oh,
we
we'll
know
go
what.
back. I think Kip clocked it the second time because I think Scott was being obvious both times. But when he extended the conversation in which I have some emails, can I to answer? Can I stick around? Who wants to answer emails in a smoothie shop? Like
I don't
Scott,
know.
man,
The vibes,
who wants
comfort.
to sit? That wasn't even a aesthetic nice smoothie
He
shop.
wasn't even sitting right.
Like, yeah,
He was
he
sitting pretty, okay? Go back to the episode. He was sitting pretty. Okay, Scott, what is this? He was sitting
he
pretty to the side. Look,
he
if
was
I'm going to
trying. He was trying to
he,
see if the
he was
man was interested in him.
flexing. He was flexing. He was like posing because if I'm going to go to a cafe and I'm going to go and answer emails, oh, we're going to be hunched over in the chair, smoothie straw in my
Like,
mouth as I slurp that
no.
thing up.
If I really needed to answer emails, I'm not answering them on my phone. Okay? He's a lying liar who lies. He just
No, no,
sat
no, no.
there. No,
I
no, no.
answer my emails on my phone all the time.
Yeah,
But he
but like,
was using it as an excuse.
I think he was using it as an excuse. I don't think he really had emails to answer. I think he wanted to see if this man he was interested in was
Uh-huh.
really interested in him.
And then as soon as the lumberjack comment happened, there was like that pause, that awkward pause, and then the invitation. As
Yeah.
soon as the invitation to the game happened, I was like, this is over. Everybody pack it up. These two are gonna live together. It's gonna be great.
Yeah, I mean, and I think the friends were also on the same page. Like, I like that we got to see Kip's friends. I think the dynamic where it's like we see Shane and Ilya being very isolated. They don't really have a lot of friends. Like, they have people around them. Shane has Hayden, but Hayden doesn't know about like his secrets. So like, they still feel very isolated.
Yeah.
Even when Kip is trying to keep a secret, he's got his friends there. The first time they're watching the game, the other friends like calling out that he likes
Sports.
no, he's calling out that Kip likes Scott, and then when Kip says I think he's straight, the friend says then make him gay. Like
Oh my god.
they're just
Oh my god.
they're
Yeah.
joking about it.
Say.
Maria clocks it right away. Elena clocks like they all sort of like are in the know even when they're pretending that they're not in the know. And I think that's sort of like a really normal friend group kind of thing. Like,
Yeah.
do you want us to pretend not to see? We'll look the other way, but we know. Okay,
We
we all
know.
know. Yeah. I will also sort of honorable mention for Kyle, the bartender at the Kingfisher, who is one of the main characters in another one of the books in this series. I don't know how much we'll see of Kyle. I don't know how much we'll see of that story, but he is.
Dun
Um,
dun
yeah,
dun.
but we don't have to talk about that. I just want to talk a little bit about the group of friends because I do think it's good that he's got a group of friends. And then we can talk again. I think Scott has been very obvious up to I think they were both like kind of obviously flirting up to the invitation. And even when Kip goes to the game, I think he's kind of like, is this guy really into me? Like, can this famous guy be into me? Like, is it me?
Is he looking at me?
Right. But yeah,
Yeah.
Scott is into, and like, yeah, and then once the they meet at that other gala, whatever, where
It was like a fundraiser.
it
It
was
was a
like, yeah,
fundraiser that his friend Sean gave him an opportunity because
yeah,
he needed money. Because I think he's trying to get like a scholarship for art school.
yeah. Grad school
Okay,
for art, yeah.
her grad school. So yeah, our boy here, Kip, is working hard, crosses paths with Scott at this fundraiser, which again, all of it is giving rom-com stuff.
Yeah,
Oh, I
absolutely.
accidentally ran into you with this plate, and oh, nothing's really wrong with your suit. And then, do you
And
like
then
Mexican food?
yeah,
How do you
and
feel
then
about ordering in?
the jokes about serial killers, like you people be flirting in a weird way, but like I'll take it. No, it was very cute rom-commy stuff, down to the way they shot the scene when they get into Scott's apartment and Scott's already taking his clothes off. Like,
Lizzie,
okay, Scott,
he
okay,
didn't play
okay.
around. Like the camera panned around and we're seeing this beautiful apartment, very rom-com. Kid was like, "Oh my god, this is beautiful." And it is a beautiful apartment, okay? It is. Like it's stunning. And then the camera like pans around and you kind of see a little bit of Scott taking off his shirt in the background, and then Scott's not playing. He's like, "I'm here," and like they just went for it. And when they do go for it and they do have sex, I do want to say that their sex scene reiterates why people like Heated Rivalry. The intimacy. Scott goes and tells him like, "Oh, you're so
Oh yeah.
beautiful,"
No, on
and
the
like,
consent, the checking in
yes.
again. Yeah.
And I will say that there were a lot of people that were saying that that's not how actual gay guys are. And I'm like, not one person can speak for the
Yeah.
entire community. Some relationships are like that, some relationships aren't like that. But as for why women, like at least us in this space right now, we liked what we saw with Scott and Kip because it was intimate, there was consent, the lighting was fantastic.
Yeah,
There was
I thought
also like an emphasis on their bodies in a way that felt sensual and like a little bit like erotic, but also in a really respectful way that showed like, that it was touching, that it was just them. Like nobody else was in this bubble with them. I really liked the scene.
yeah, I thought they did a really good job, but we didn't get as much sex scenes in this episode as we've got with Shane and Ilya. And I think that is n- n- just part of the way the relationships work. Shane and Ilya communicate through sex throughout the entire, like, for so much
Ah.
of their relationship, they are communicating through sex. They're not talking, they're not doing anything else other than having sex. And so
Yeah.
the communication happens through sex. Scott and Kip are talking, they're communicating, they also having sex, but like their main thing is not sex. That's why we're not seeing such long scenes. Because
Ah.
we don't need to have, like, we broke down a lot of like the hidden conversations that were going on between Shane and Ilya while they were having sex. Because
Yeah.
we needed to, because they were not actually talking. They were having like silent conversations while they were having sex. Scott and Kip are actually talking. They talk in this
That's
episode. So we don't need to
ah.
see it. So I think it goes to show that the show is not being gratuitous with the sex. Like they're showing us the sex when the sex is furthering the story. And here
Ah.
we get it because they're a couple and they have sex, but like we don't need to tell all the stories through the sex they have.
I didn't think of it like that. Lizzie, did you go to college? That's
Yeah.
good analysis, girl.
Yeah. Oh, but like I also think we sort of skipped in the sort of like chronological part of the episode. We skipped over our little moments with Shane and Ilya in this episode that sort of inform a lot of what happens later. We have first,
Yes.
uh, we have Scott playing in Boston and Ilya being Ilya. We've seen this before, but the thing I really love about Ilya is like, "Good game, I love you," like that he does to all of his teammates. I think it
I
established
love
it.
that.
The show did a really good job of establishing something that will be important going forward, which is Ilya is a really good captain. Um, I think you could argue that Shane's a better player. I don't know if Ilya would let you argue that, but like you could argue it. I think that Shane's a better
Yeah.
player, but I think Ilya is a better captain. I think that's what you're
Yeah.
supposed to sort of take out of that from that. But like he's being himself, Ilya saying I love you, whatever. He's chirping Scott a little bit. Scott is just in a bad headspace, okay? He took what Ilya said and then it stayed in his head because he took it to the next game with Shane. And then Shane literally, my poor baby, that was the tamest chirp ever. He just said, next time you should show up. That wasn't even an insult, okay? Ilya had probably said 50 worse things in the previous game. It's just
Yeah.
that Scott was at his breaking point, okay? He was ready to
Uh
snap. Now, the real
Shane
question
took it
I want to,
personally.
Shane took it personally, but like, okay, let's talk about this from the perspective of the show and the perspective of the book. Because what Scott says is you're starting to sound like him. He is obviously referring to Ilya. Shane
Yeah.
knows it. Scott knows it. But in the book, or I think the first interpretation is that he's only saying that in the context of the rivalry. You're starting to sound like him, and he knows that Shane is going to understand who he's talking about because Shane's name and Ilya's name are always sort of put together. Uh, and I don't think in the first interpretation is Scott he didn't know. He wasn't saying it because he knew. Shane reacts the way he reacts because that is his anxiety playing a role in this. Like, he thinks that Scott is saying that he knows about Shane and Ilya, and he reacts badly because of it. Because he thinks he's being called out, and I think he could probably think that Scott is being homophobic even, because he doesn't know why Scott is bringing up Ilya in this moment. And when you're so scared of something, uh,
You see
you
signs
react.
everywhere. You're like,
No, you react defensively,
yeah.
even though I think there is an interpretation that actually valid interpretation where you could be like, the fact that Shane reacts so defensively clues Scott in. Like, even if he wasn't saying it in that way, when Shane reacts that way, and we see the announcer even say, has Shane Hollander ever fought someone? So, like, what would make Shane Hollander, who has not had a fight in his entire career up to that point, fights Scott? Not someone also who, like, it's not like Ilya who's fighting every game or every 2-3 games. Like, so, but let me get all my stuff
I
out
was
and
about to say, what
like,
made you
wait.
think of this? Because we were talking about the Kip and Scott sex scene, and then
No,
you brought
because
this up. I don't
because
get it.
chronologically it happens before the Kip and Scott sex scene in the episode. So I wanted to get it out of
Oh,
the
I
way.
forgot about that. I was like,
Um,
whatever, we're already the next thing.
no, but like, I think it's important for us to discuss what Scott knew. Because I think the show lends itself to the book. In the book, he didn't know. Okay. In the
Okay.
show, I think it's valid to interpret it as this man heard Ilya say 12:21 the last time in the All-Star game. He heard
Yeah.
Ilya tell Shane his room. Maybe he didn't understand then what he heard. He just heard a number. Maybe he heard his room number. He wasn't sure. But like that, coupled with the chirp that makes Shane get so angry, is probably enough for Scott Hunter to put it together.
So you think by this point Scott knew?
I mean, again, I'm asking what you think because I think it's clear in the book he did not. He did not know. He
I
didn't. But
I
in the
think it had
show,
nothing to do with Shane. I don't think it had anything to do with Shane. Shane just read into it 45 he's been seeing things everywhere and things went from like 1 to 45 with the comment and then they just went to 100.
but like it was clearly about Shane. Like, it was a chirp about Shane. I just think Scott was so in his head about how the season was going that he was just throwing something out
Yeah.
there. Like, whatever. I know this is gonna bother you because last time we talked when you were a rookie, you were upset about sort of being loved with Ilya. So I'm just gonna throw that at you. And
I
I'm gonna
thought
think the worst thing you can think for Shane to insult him, I think Scott would think is a comparison to Ilya. So he throws that out there and then Shane reacts. When Shane reacts, I think it's also fair to say Scott has a lot of things to worry about other than Shane's love life. Like, he might have thought, this is weird, and didn't really think about it because, like, he's got other things going on. Like, he's not going to sit and make, like, a timeline of whether Shane and Ilya are actually together. Like, that's not his main thing. But, like, my question is, do you think he knew?
no.
Okay. Because
Look, it reminded me of that thing that Ilya said before. Not everything is about you, Hollander, and it ain't. And that's I feel like why it's important to show this episode and everything that happens with Scott and Kip, because a lot of times we think people are worried about us and thinking about us. Sorry, not sorry. This might shock you. Hold my hand while I tell you this. People got their own problems. And this episode, Scott had his own problems.
yeah.
And I
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, I agree that he was, even if he caught some things, maybe he didn't put them together.
It's none of my
Because
business either. Scott's got too much stuff going on. That's how I'm trying to live my life now. Like, stop thinking about, oh, is this person thinking about me? Is this person talking about me? They probably aren't, because they're probably thinking about their own problems. So yeah.
yeah, and while we're in the comparison stage, I also kind of want to talk about, and we see it with the Kip jumping into the relation. We see their sex scene, and then Scott's like, "Can you stay?" And then
Morning
he stays
after.
and never
Move
leaves. Like
in.
whatever. Then he's cooking pasta salads in Scott's house and there all the time, and making him smoothies in the morning. It's like
Yeah,
Scott got a
Dad, I'm
house.
Okay. I'm with a
Scott got a
friend.
house husband for free. Like, I'm not saying that's bad. Like, Kip doesn't want to do that. Kip's not being forced to do anything. You can decide that that's what you want. Like, I'm not judging Kip. Um, I just think it is they have a very different dynamic. Um, Scott and Kip than Shane and Ilya, which is sort of why this episode serves to sort of contrast what we've been seeing before.
Yeah.
Scott is the one with money. Scott is the one buying him a tux and putting it in his closet that has absolutely nothing else in the closet. Like, I'm still like hung up on when he opened the closet and there was nothing there other than the tux, and I was like, "Well, where are your clothes, Scott?" Like, I
Back
don't
to
know.
that serial killer conversation.
Like again, like, are you sure you're not a serial killer? Because there's nothing in
Look,
your closet,
Lizzie. That organization in the apartment, nothing in the
right?
closet, like keeping him in the house, keeping him a secret. Look, Kip is a better person than me because I will say the one thing that I thought about while watching this is that someone could take these conversations, especially the night after they have sex for the first time, and like cut it differently and put like scary music. And this is like a horror. This is a horror drama because I've seen somebody do that with Ilya and Shane, and it was fantastic, especially because Shane has like that really intense face sometimes. Um I really hope that somebody made something with this because I will say that that was a little bit intense, the serial killer conversation of it all. But I do think the biggest difference between Scott, Kip, and then Ilya and Shane is that conversation they have the day afterwards where Scott kind of lays it all out.
Yeah,
And he lays it all out and he's like, I've never done this before, but I like you. I would basically like continue to like see you, blah blah blah. He laid it out in a way where it made it very, very clear that they have completely different problems from Ilya and Shane. So yeah, I like
yeah,
that he put that out there because it's hard to say what you want. It's hard. It's
yeah.
hard. People are like, oh, it's so easy. It's not.
Yeah, and I think two things can be true. I think Kip didn't go into that relationship blind. He knew that Scott wasn't ready to come out, didn't feel like he could come out right away. He went in knowing Scott didn't try to lie, didn't try to trick him at any point. He made that decision. I also think it's fair to say that Kip can reconsider whether that decision is good for him after a while. I think both things are true. I don't think once you make a decision, you have to be
Oh my God,
held to
yes.
that decision forever. I think it's fair for Kip to be like, yes, I want this relationship with you. And then a few months later, be like, you know what? This is really hard for me. I
Yes.
can't continue like this. I think both things are fair, especially when Scott's a little serial killer. Like, I also noticed that. Wait. I also noticed that when they get to the apartment, the lights are on, the chimney is on. Like, who came to your house and turned everything on? Like, do you always do you leave them on?
No, Lizzie.
So
He's rich,
concerned.
okay? They have buttons, okay? They have buttons that turn on fires and
I
stuff like
don't
that.
know. I don't know.
We are
But yeah,
poors, okay?
maybe.
Um
But yeah, I let's go back to Kim's decision, because I've also seen sort of like a narrative of, well, he knew what he was getting into, so
Oh.
why was he upset about it? I think you can feel upset about it. Like, I think it can become too much for you.
Yeah, honestly, I think that's one of the things that they don't not a lot of people are taught growing up. I wasn't taught this. I wasn't taught that you can change your
Yeah.
mind. Kip entered that thinking that maybe he could handle it, and then maybe things got a little too real, a little too fast, and he realized that he wanted something a little bit more. And that's why I always say, Elena, she realized it that about how Kip, like, even though he was putting on a brave face, he was miserable because he wanted to be in the sun. Like, having those intimate moments together, that's great. But I think what broke Kip is that he has this curiosity about life and this love for so many things. and so many different people, and he wants to share that with
Yeah.
Scott, but Scott's not there, and I think it's so brave of Kip to be like to walk away basically.
Yeah.
It takes a lot of strength to walk away. It takes a lot of strength to say I changed my mind. Because again, people aren't taught this. People aren't taught that you can change your mind and you absolutely can.
And not only like you can change your mind, you can put yourself first. You can decide,
Yeah.
um, right now, I can't handle this, and this is me putting myself before the relationship. I don't think Kim should be judged for that at all. I think it's very brave, as you said, that he made both decisions. He had at one point thought he probably thought he could.
Yeah.
And we also are seeing Scott really struggle, like when they go to the art gallery.
Oh my
Um,
god, yes.
it's not that Scott doesn't want to. He is scared. Like you can see, he has a panic
Terrified.
attack. He has a panic attack, and then
Had like a cap, glasses.
right, and then I think for some people it might feel like he's having a panic attack for no reason, because then he comes out and it doesn't feel like it's a big deal, but it is.
Yeah, it
It is
continues
a big
being a big
deal.
deal.
It is a big deal. And he's got it right. Like it's not just hockey, which is very straight and white, and it's very toxic culture in so many ways. It is sports in general, it is a society in general. It is sort of like all the expectations that come with it that he's carrying in his shoulders because he's going to be the first. When you're the first, you're carrying all of that in your
Oh my
shoulders, and
god, yes.
he knows there's no one else. He doesn't even know if there are other players, other gay players or bisexual players. He doesn't know. So he knows that if he comes out, he's going to be the first. And that means he's going to be the poster boy. And that is
Yes.
so hard
That's
because,
pressure.
yeah, and he's, I think part of like the reason Scott is the way he is, organized and clean and like good, like also a guy who doesn't fight and like the good stand up Captain America kind of guy, is because he's always felt like he needed to portray this image to the world in a way like Shane does. Um, because this image that he portrays, like he can be a role model, and that means that he won't be judged for this other thing that he is, uh whenever, if ever, that comes out. Like if I am
Yeah.
a straight, like a perfect role model, then people won't judge me for being gay, which is like you
Yeah.
should be able to be whoever you are.
Yeah,
But
I also want to
he
talk
doesn't
about the
feel like that.
control. The control of it all because I know we like joked hee hee about Scott's serial killer tendencies, but like the fact that he wanted to have the relationship in this controlled space, the fact that his apartment was nice and clean and proper, and he had all the supplies in his fridge, and there was order to Scott's life in a way that was intense. And he did it because like if he can't control what he's feeling inside, he can't control that maybe he feels a little guilty about like being gay within that space, but he can control the things around him. He can control these things, and even though they did move a little bit fast, him and Scott and Kip, like in that space he could be himself, and there's something in like intoxicating about
Yeah.
that. And this in I look at Shane and Ilya in the same way that they could be themselves in that shared space. They could be the person they've always wanted to be, or the person they always knew they could be. But yeah, I like how this episode went from like rom-com to kind of like real world things and
The real world
choose.
sad.
Yeah, like they both deserve sunshine, which um can we talk about that scene about like
Yeah.
what was it,
No,
like the
but
player awards?
yeah, but like first, no, that was also a fundraiser. But like, I will say, um, I I I don't know. I think the way this episode works, sort of like as a mirror to Shane and Ilya, is very very important because Scott's thing again is I can't come out. Shane, or like the fear of coming out, this journey is about this pressure, this specific pressure. Um, in you were talking about how he could only be himself in those moments with Kip, and that's exactly the same thing that's happening to Shane and Ilya. They can only be
Ah.
themselves in those moments with them, but their problem is bigger. Um, so even though Scott existing, coming out, Scott's relationship with Kip gives them sort of like a ray of sunshine, like there's hope now. Um, that's why we stay with Shane and Ilya, because that doesn't solve their problems. Coming out
Mm-hmm.
solves Scott's problem. Coming out does not solve Shane and Ilya's problems.
Yeah.
That's why their storyline is the one we're following, and the storyline that continues. Coming out is sort of the end of Scott's problems. Like, not really. There will always be homophobia. There will always be, but he doesn't really face um any pressure from the league. No one's telling him you gotta go back into the closet. No one's telling him you gotta dump your boyfriend. No one's telling him this is bad. Like, there probably will be a bunch of homophobes in his mentions on Instagram or something. But like, those things you can sort of block out institutionally. Things are not happening to him.
Yeah.
He will not be shunned for it. And part of it is the he is with someone outside of hockey. Um, and part of it is also that his relationship, I think unfairly, like I think there's a lot of expectations and a lot of ideas that are about male female relationships that are applied to queer relationships in a way that is unfair.
Okay.
I think the power imbalance in money makes the relationship between Scott and Kip feel more like something people who are not used to queer relationships can accept. It feels like Scott is the man of the relationship because he's the one with
Ah.
money, and he's the one with sort of this that gives him a little bit of power. Um, I think when we as a society, I'm hoping not to be a liar, but like we as a society can put queer relationships in a little box that makes it easier for society to understand them. We can, or the people who don't really understand or want, can process them
Yeah.
better, can process them better. So I think the fans, the league, whatever, can sort of process Scott's relationship better because he is with someone that they feel is like Scott still has that power. Like the power imbalance is felt in on the outside. Even if in the relationship with Scott and Kip, on the relationship, I don't think there's a power imbalance when they're together. I think we see it in their sexual dynamic. I think they feel like equals to each other. But I don't
Uh-huh.
think we can separate from the fact that Scott is the one with the money. Scott is the one who was like buying everything. Kip was living in his apartment. Like those are realities. Um,
Yeah.
so I think the perception outside of the relationship is very important. Because the thing that people cannot really process about Shane and Ilya's relationship is that you cannot put them in a little box.
Yeah.
Um, of they are equals in like every way. And then how do you understand that relationship within the confines of what society has told you
Hmm.
about relationships? And that's what I think for people who are not used to queer relationships, the league, the entire sports world, it's not just the rivalry, it's that I cannot put this relationship in a box that allows me to understand it.
Yeah, I didn't think about it like that if I'm being honest because so kudos to you, Lizzie. Big brain moment over here, big brain moment. Um I don't think I thought of it like that if I'm being honest, but it does make sense. There's this whole conversation when it comes to queer people, uh um especially men. No, I was gonna say especially men, but like no, men and women, like lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, anything. Everybody's like, "Oh, so who's the guy or non-binary? Who's
Right.
the guy? Who's the girl?"
Right.
That's none of your business.
But like, it doesn't even have to be like
It doesn't.
like it's such a binary way of thinking because
Yeah,
like
that's what I want to say.
even in top bottom or submissive and dynamics, there's not necessarily like your sexual preference just has nothing to do with the other dynamics of your relationship. And I think we're so used to trying to understand it in a this person is sort of like the dominant and whatever. And I don't necessarily think uh queer relationships work like that. And I don't think people
Yeah.
are, and also every queer relationship works however the people in the relationship want it to work. um some relationships can be like that, some are not, some can be like that on Thursdays and not on Fridays, and then on Wednesdays we like it doesn't matter. Like it's not your relationship to judge, but people judge the queer relationships to try to put them into boxes. And as our people are trying to put them into boxes, I think sadly, because of the rom-com of it all, it also puts Kip and Scott in sort of like a little box that makes people easier to understand. Like I've also seen sort of the reaction to some people from episode 3 to the rest of the show, and like I've seen some people react more positively to episode 3 because I think those are people who are sort of used to the imbalance, the power imbalance in the relationship. I think again, Scott and Kip as a relationship in our sort of the entry gay relationship, that as someone who is not very open, you can sort of make yourself understand. You know what I mean?
As a queer person, I'm gonna say this. So they're the starter gays.
They're the, they're the
Is this what
starter
you're
kit.
telling me? Is this your like nice way of saying this?
I mean, I this is discourse that I think mostly queer women aside, I think this is discourse that belongs to queer men. Like men can have this discourse, but like
Of course.
the reaction I've seen, myself commenting especially on women that I've seen prefer episode 3 over the rest of the series. It feels to me that straight women in particular, because I don't think the reaction has been the same from queer women. Straight women in particular are used to a dynamic of power and balance. And even in rom-coms, even like who makes the first move, the guy, like who makes the first move here, Scott, like,
Yeah.
the way it's set up, it's sort of like rom-commy. And how are the rom-coms set up with the guy in this sort of like position of like dominance, even if it's not real.
Okay. I didn't think of that. Okay, how do we circle back to where we were before? Because I don't know how we
Okay.
ended up here.
I mean, I like detours. What is your problem? It's not like your first podcast you do with me. Okay, we can go back to Elena and that conversation about Kip wanting to be in the sun, which I think is a beautiful, really beautiful scene for Elena. Like, I think at some point we're gonna have to do an episode of the women of Heated Rivalry because for a show about gay relationships, there are so many good female characters in this show.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Elena is one of them in this episode. I think she's trying to be a good friend. And I think it might feel, to some people, it might feel unfair to Scott what she's saying. Uh,
What?
but I think she's looking out for her friend. She
She's looking
is.
out for her friend. I'm surprised that people like think that she's being a little unfair to Scott, but because she's also looking out for Scott. Like
Yeah.
she told him, what she told him, and so do you. He
Yeah, yeah.
deserves the
He
best.
deserves
He
some.
deserves
Yes.
sunshine, and so do you.
Yeah, yeah,
Hmm.
yeah.
Hmm.
She's saying they both deserve to be out in the sun. I mean, she's also saying it from a, like, I know what she was doing. I think she's a really good friend and I appreciate her words. It's also way easier for her to say it. Like she's
A
not
hundred.
in the position.
Yeah, it's 100% easier for her to say it, but it's also the fact that it is easier for her to say it that she needs to be the one to say it.
Yeah, yeah.
They both needed a little outside perspective because I think at this point in the episode they were stagnating. Scott and Kip were stagnating. They really were, and I don't think they were being as honest with each other because when Elena told him that during the dance, Scott didn't even clock it. He was like, "Wait, what?" Like he was shocked that Kip wasn't happy.
And because Kip was masked, Kip had it like, again, I don't think we can fault Scott for not noticing something that Kip was hiding. I don't think that really is on Scott. He was doing a really good job of hiding that he was not feeling well and putting on a mask when he was with Scott. And then when Scott was not around, he was feeling sad. But like when Scott was there, he was not acting like he was bothered. I think what Elena does is puts it on the table so they have to discuss it. And then Kip can be honest about the fact that he is bothered. And when they have that conversation, Kip isn't pushing for much. He's just asking Scott, come to this party with me as my friend.
Yeah.
And Scott is so scared he can't even
Mm-hmm.
do that. That's sort of what breaks
Yeah.
them.
Yeah, no,
Because,
honestly, as soon as Scott said in a few years, I looked at Kip's face, I was like, it's done. It's done.
but ironically, considering the timeline of the show, we do end up, it does end up taking a few years.
Yeah,
And
but that's
Kip's,
later.
Kip's
In the
still there.
now.
Okay, in the now. But yeah, I think Scott was so scared. And in hindsight, he probably would have gone to that party. But like
He
hindsight
did
is
though,
20 to
right?
no, he didn't.
No, he did at the end. He did go to the party. He was outside. He just didn't
Yeah,
go
he
in.
didn't go in. Like in hindsight, I mean, he probably after everything that happens in the future would have thought I should have just gone to that party because hindsight is 2020. Like Skip wasn't asking him to come out in
Yeah.
public. What he did was way more than what Kip asked him to do in the moment. Kip asked
Yeah.
him to walk with him to a party as a friend, and Scott overcorrected a few years later by kissing him in the middle of the ring when he won the Stanley Cup. That is
Ugh.
not what Kip was asking, you know? Um,
Yeah.
but I think Scott was so scared at that moment to like give an inch because I think deep down he also wanted it. And
Yeah.
that's part of the fear, I think. Like if you take one step, maybe you will just fall over the cliff.
Yeah, it's also that control thing too, because if he goes and he hangs out with these people and like they already showed that someone recognized him randomly in a coffee shop, what if somebody recognizes him at this bar and he said, oh my God, someone connects it and rumors start about Scott being at a gay bar? Like, I think Scott is the kind of person that thinks 10 steps ahead and that anxiety train. Um,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
So
I
it's
think
like,
you're right.
yeah, I can't fault him for like having that anxiety, and I can't fault Kip for choosing himself and just being like enough is enough, and sometimes you're not in the right place in your life to be together. You care about that person, you really really do, but you're not there. But it was really sad seeing both of them hurting and seeing like Kip inside of that bar with his friends, and you learn that he got the scholarship and his life is going in a different direction, and he's definitely sad, but he's moving forward. And sometimes that's just what happens in life. Sad things happen, you got the big breakups, but you keep moving forward. And then when the camera panned out and then you see Scott outside, like, I gotta think that a part of him came because he was like, what if I do? He
Yeah.
ultimately didn't go in, but I feel like there was enough shift forward, and enough progress in the fact that he appeared, that he was actually there outside. He could have gone in, but he didn't.
Yeah. I again, I don't really I think sometimes like you said it's not like there isn't always a bad guy
Yeah.
in when things don't work out. And I think this episode ends in a point where you don't really need to feel like Scott doesn't owe anyone a timeline for coming out. Like he doesn't owe Kip coming
True.
out when Kip wants. You don't owe your partner um coming out when they want. But similarly, Kip doesn't know Scott staying when he is not comfortable with the situation they're in. And it's just
Yeah.
a very hard situation. They're not in the same place at the same time with their journey. And that's it. That's sad. It's not like Scott is a bad guy. It's not like Kip is a bad guy. They're
Yeah.
just not in the same place um, with this part of the journey. And then Scott will get there. And like I think I think show wise, it probably would have worked better if we didn't have a 3-year time jump between. Because then I'm still like, why were you even there, kid? Like it would have made sense if it was the same season.
Yeah.
And then at the end of the season, Scott, like, and if it had just been like a few months, and then I would have been like, okay, yeah, like he was there. He waited a few months. I think at this point we're supposed to sort of fill in the blanks and believe that they sort of stayed in touch. Maybe they weren't together, but they had to have at least stayed in touch for Kip to be there. Um, I don't know. That's it.
Yeah. That's why, like, look, if when the show comes back, I honestly maybe wouldn't mind knowing a little bit of more what happened in between. I don't know how it could fit into, season 2, but I feel like there is something missing there because how did they get to that point where Scott was outside watching Kip as he was celebrating with his friends, and then later on they're good enough where Kip is at his game and comes down in
Yeah,
front of
I
all these
think
people and kisses him. Like that's the one thing I will fault like the show because I'm like, what happened there? There's some missing information that I want to know.
Yeah, I think we're probably gonna get that missing information. I think that's missing information they can give us very easily.
Okay.
Um, just a conversation or two. I think sort of the season 2 has to open up the world. I don't know how much we'll get of the other couples. Um, in the like, I don't think we have time for too much of Scott and Kip. Like, I would like to see
Yeah.
them back, but it's not like we have time for a lot. But
How
I
many
think
other couples are there?
there are 6 books, so in Shane and Ilya have 2, and they're gonna have 3. So there's Scott and Kip, and then 3 other
Lily's
couples.
counting.
Yes, I was like, what? How many are there? 3 other couples. But I think it is essential to season 2, which is supposed to be, if not all, part of Shane and Ilya's second book, the long game.
Okay.
Um, essential to that story to tell the story of book 5, which is Troy Barrett and Harris, who is a social media manager for
I
Autumn.
got no idea who these people
Like
are.
you don't have to, but like just know that Troy's coming out is Ilya is very present in Troy's storyline because Ilya is the captain of the team.
Yeah.
And then that story is happening more or less, parts of it intersect with the long game. Um,
Ah.
so
Okay.
I don't think you can tell that story. I don't know if we're gonna get the couples from episode 3 or episode 4. Other than maybe they'll appear, maybe there'll be like a little nod to them. I don't think we can spend too much time on them because the long game is
Yeah.
it's a longer book. And they still, if you're gonna do 6 episodes, like I don't know, like magic has to happen here. Or unless they're gonna cut it, I just don't think the book has like a really good stopping place. So I don't know what's gonna happen. There are some
Yeah.
things that need to be fleshed out. We can talk about sort of book when we can do a season 2, what needs to happen thing at some point. But whether we'll see Scott and Kip again, I think we will.
Okay.
But how much will we see them? I don't think we'll get as much as we got this season.
Yeah, I honestly, if it isn't essential to the story that we're focusing on now with Shane and Ilya, I don't think we really need to go into it. I know that there are probably the other couples in the Game Changer series that people want to see. I'm okay if they don't get their like episode. I really am good. I do want to say an honorable mention as we like wind down. Kip's dad.
Man, Kip's dad
Kip's
was so good.
dad. Oh my god, because we talked earlier about Ilya when everybody was going off the ice and he was like, "Good job, I love you." That's positive male
Yeah,
like reinforcement and love that creates a space cuz look, guys don't like to tell each other
yeah,
I love
yeah,
you, and just that simple fact that the captain makes it so, "Oh, I love you." it normalizes that. It doesn't make it other. And I think a really, really big, like positive male representation and love and kindness was the dad. The dad was like, are you okay? I love you. And he was very helpful and supportive in every step. And then at the end, when Kim came home,
It was like the dad said I love you 57 times, like good parents. I know we got David Hollander. It's not that this is the first time we've seen a good dad, but like considering that we know Scott's parents died when he was young, Ilya's father we don't mention in this house. It was nice to see Kip's dad being like such nice, like the 20 million times he told his son he loved them. Um,
yeah. It goes to
and
show
just
you again, like how we were talking about when we first started this podcast episode about how you I feel like a lot of times when we watch TV, everybody's got bad parents. Everybody's got
yeah.
bad parents, dead parents, and just how showing Scott and Kip in this episode showed that hey, you can have multiple queer people on a show in the same respect. You can have multiple parents, and oh my God, some of them are alive and some of them are supportive. Those exist.
Yeah, and I also think it's important to sort of, as you were saying, a multiple queer people. It's multiple queer people in sort of different places in their journey. Because Kip is
Yeah.
a out and proud man, which is part of what makes this thing with Scott so complicated for him.
Hmm.
That he's not used to being back in his relationship is put back in something that he hasn't been closeted. He's out.
Yeah.
He's happy. Everyone knows. So sort of hiding his relationship puts him back in a dynamic that he wasn't in, or that so that makes it
Hmm.
harder. Like
Yeah.
if Shane and Ilya are on the same path, they're both hiding this thing. So while they're both hiding this thing, there's not a internal pressure to come out. They're both equally scared through the entirety of the show of anyone finding out. But Kip and Scott are on different paths. Kip is out, proud, and then Scott is closeted. And he brings Kip into the closet with him without like it's not what he wants. He also wants to be out and proud. But I
Yeah.
think it's also good to sort of, since we are focusing so much on Shane and Ilya and like their struggles with coming out and everything, and Scott's struggles so much, it's really good to see Kip, who has absolutely no struggles with his sexuality. He's fine. Like, he's gay.
Yeah.
He's looking at this hockey player and he's like, oh, the smile is fine. Like, I'm gonna make him a smoothie and put bananas in
Oh,
it.
I'm
Like,
gonna make him a smoothie and learn everything there is to know about hockey. Like
I'm
he was
like,
down.
yeah, yeah. And like, I think there are a lot of like TV and sort of like entertainment often makes queer experiences very complicated, and there are a
Hmm.
lot of people who struggle with their identity. But there are also some people who don't struggle at all. People who are like, yeah, I like men, I like women, I like everything, whatever, I'm fine. Like that's me. And I
Yep.
think that it's fair and like a good representation to have Kip for those people who are like, okay, there's no struggle here, which is good.
Yes, and we need that. I feel like a lot of times within like the queer space, there is this we want normalization. We want to be treated just like everybody else, and that sometimes happen in boring relationships, like Scott and Kip, where they don't have as many problems. Honestly, they're giving like cozy with a minimum problems, and then everything's solved, and I'm okay with that.
Yeah, but like that's part of like why, again, as I said at the beginning, it's not that I don't like them. It's like if you bring them back too much, you're just gonna have to give them problems.
Yeah, and I
And
don't
I
want them to have
don't want
problems.
that. Like, I hate sequels of movies that just break up the thing they did in the first place. So give them a like that. I'm a hater of those things. So part of
Hater.
my thing is I don't want them to have problems. Like if book 3 on Rival actually makes hockey culture sort of like the villain, then it makes sense for Scott and Kip to sort of, Scott in particular,
Hmm.
to, as they're fighting hockey culture as a big thing, for all the hockey players who are queer to come together sort of like in the fight for the queer Avengers of the Game Changers universe. Queer Avengers assemble. That makes sense. But
Okay.
while the long game is going on, so where we're in season 2, it makes less sense for me. I mean, they can be in the
Hmm.
background, or you can see Scott. We can hear about what they've been doing. We can do all of those things, but do we
Okay.
really need too much of a focus on them? I don't think so. Especially because we do need the story of Troy and Harris. It for it to make sense. I think we did need that. So again, it's one of those, like, I actually really enjoyed this episode, especially on rewatch. But I'm fine with the story sort of being what it is.
Yeah, I'm fine with it being contained. It was essential. It changes everything for Ilya and Shane later on. Um, so yeah. Do you have
Yeah.
anything else to add?
No, I think the most important thing, and it's sad, but like this, the show is called Heated Rivalry. Heated Rivalry is book 2. So I don't necessarily think it's sad that the story sort of exists the way it does to set up um or to push forward Shane and Ilya's relationship, because that's what the show is about, Shane and Ilya's relationship. Um I actually think it's really good that they got what we got. Like, they could have done Scott and Kip in little moments. And I in between the episodes, we could have gotten like a scene of Scott and Kip every episode to build up to this, instead of an
Ah,
episode for them. And I don't know if that would have worked. As like, now that we got the thing the way we got it, I'm like,
yeah.
yeah, this works. I don't know if the other thing would have worked as well, because maybe if I was in the middle of a really intense Shane and Ilya scene and you cut to Scott and Kip, I would have been like,
I
what
would
are
have been
you doing?
swiped away.
What are you doing? I would have been mad. So like, this episode forces us to focus on the story completely. And then next
Yeah.
episode we focus completely on Shane and Ilya again. And then in episode 5 we do have a detour with Scott and Kip that sort of brings the story together, which is
Uh-huh.
exactly what we needed. So yeah, I think this episode works really well for what it is, for what it needed to be. Um and yeah, I mean, I do look forward to seeing them in the future. Just probably
You're like,
not
not
as
now.
not as front and center as they were in season 1, I guess.
But do you think that other couple that you mentioned, Troy and whatever, do they need their own episode?
A The thing about Troy and Harris is that since the things are happening at the same time
Okay.
as the long game, so as Shane and Ilya's story, I don't
Mhm.
think you need to give them because you
Okay,
can't
okay, okay.
interject the scenes in between what's happening, especially because a lot of the Troy scenes that carry, there'll be scenes with Troy and Harris, but a lot of the scenes for Troy that carries plot forward at the beginning are with Ilya. So like, you can
Okay.
just help that flesh out Ilya's team. Because I think we're gonna need to flesh out Ilya's team, Ottawa, in a way that we really didn't flesh out Montreal or Boston for Ilya and Shane in season 1. We will need to flesh out the Centaurs, because we're gonna see them more.
Okay.
So it makes sense for that story to be like, okay, we take a 2-minute break from Shane and Ilya's thing to go to Ilya's team, especially because we are gonna be in season 2. I don't know what we're gonna do in season 2, because we didn't even the show ended way before the book ends. The show ended
Hmm.
when they're leaving the cottage. In the book, we have a, a time jump, and they're already announced at the foundation. And Ilya's
Oh,
already going to
wow.
Ottawa. So they're gonna fill in the spaces for that, I guess, at the beginning of season 2. But that does give us a different sort of dynamic. We are not there's things to fill, but like, once we do get to Ottawa, we are gonna have to see Illy's storyline is about adjusting, and if you're gonna tell a story about adjusting, you need the team he's adjusting to some degree.
Okay.
Especially in like big spoilers for like the long
No
game. I'm sorry,
spoilers. Let's
no
pull it
spoilers. We've
back.
we've talked spoilers. You don't want me to say what I'm gonna say?
I don't know, bro.
Okay, but like, I won't say it, but like, if you know, you know, we need Ilias' team to be fleshed out. That's all.
Okay. I don't even know what you're hinting at. I think that's what makes this interesting. You know so much about the book, and I'm like, I don't know,
Oh,
fulanito over here, I guess. Um, but yeah, if you don't have anything else to add, I don't have anything else to add. I think we said everything we needed to say. But
I don't know.
that's gonna
I always think of 5 things to say when we say. But like, yeah, at some we don't have anything to say specifically episode. At some point, we're probably gonna do episodes about a specific storylines or a specific character. Maybe a character breakdown will help us say some things that we left unsaid. But for now, I'm done.
She's like, peace. Done. Done,
Peace
done, done.
out.
But yeah, that's it for our review of season 1, episode 3, Hunter. Next up, we're gonna have Rose. So drama, 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 miscommunication, thinking what you have to be something you're not, problemas, okay? We're gonna have problems coming our way. But yes, if you want to follow us, keep up to date with everything that's going on with our unofficial Heated Rivalry podcast, of course, subscribe, like here on YouTube if you're watching. And if you're listening, we're gonna be on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and you can come and follow us over on our Heated Rivalry podcast Instagram, which is just Heated Rivalry Podcast. But yeah, that's it for this episode. Thank you so much for joining us. Make sure to get up, drink water, eat something, whether it's a banana or not. Thank you so much. Bye.
Bye.